Hello, Screamers. Today, we are going to be discussing my best and worst 10 films of 2024. Full disclosure that this is a brand new channel. This is my very first upload, so I implore you to subscribe, comment, do all the things. It really helps out, as you know. Let's just get right into the list. So these films are going to be ranked from worst to best, essentially. So for the worst films of the year, number 10 will be the worst. And for the best films of the year, number 1 will be the best. So my worst film of the year that I saw, I actually just watched recently in the past couple of days, and it is The Front Room. So this was written and directed by Robert Eggers' brothers, apparently. And I have to say, they should have asked him for some notes. This movie, what can I say? I mean, Brandy was pretty entertaining in the film, and the setup for the film is really, really interesting. Basically, it is this young husband and wife, and they are put in a position where they're asked to take in the son's stepmother, who is like kind of a wicked stepmother to him in his childhood. And she's devoutly religious, racist. Here's the thing, this movie had no nuance at all. It was just like meant to annoy you, and it did do that. The only thing that was good about this was Brandy and then the ending. But yeah, worst movie of the year. I gave this 2 stars, and here's the thing. Did I rate other movies worse? Yes, but how I rate movies when I initially see them is very different than how I view a film with hindsight and, of course, rewatches. So sometimes a lower rated film to me is still better than a film rated higher than, and vice versa, if that makes sense. But yes, so the worst film of the year for me is The Front Room. Let's move on. So number 9 in my worst films of the year was, of course, a Blumhouse film. Crazy that an A24 film was worse than a Blumhouse film. I don't like where we're headed, but I still have full faith in A24, of course. However, my number 9 worst film of the year was Night Swim. This, on paper, should have been a fun popcorn horror. Haunted swimming pool, family moves in, chaos ensues. And while it gave that, it didn't lie. What was this whole subplot about baseball and the husband's like love for baseball? Look, it just did not work. These like slow fantasy like flashes of him on the baseball diamond when the film is supposed to be about a haunted swimming pool. Why wasn't he a swimmer? Why wasn't he like a failed like Michael Phelps wannabe? Like, I don't understand what this movie was doing. I don't like it. This was my lowest rated film of the year until about 24 hours ago, and I had to put The Front Room below it because it was just it was just terrible upon reflection. The more I thought about it, it just had to go below this. But Night Swim, truly terrible as well. Don't waste your time. Not worth your money, not worth the rental, not worth the brain power. Moving on. Okay, so my number 8 worst film of the year. This one's actually pretty surprising to me because even though there are haters of certain films, like actual movies in this world, I've always really been a fan of all of the movies, all 3 of them that we had prior to this one. But number 8 worst film of 2024 for me was Saving Bikini Bottom, a Sandy Cheeks story. Because first of all, who asked? Who asked for it? Also, this chair is kind of squeaky, so if you hear that throughout the video, I'm sorry. Who asked? I'm waiting. I want to know. Truly can't remember anything about this film except for that Wanda Sykes is in it, and I always enjoy seeing her, so that was fun. She has these like creepy animated fish or something, and she like turns into a robot or something in the end. Here, look, let me give you a plot synopsis. Buckle up. It says buckle up, not me, but I'm saying it too. When Bikini Bottom is scooped from the ocean, scientific squirrel Sandy Cheeks and her pal SpongeBob SquarePants saddle up for Texas to save their town. That should be fun. That should be a fun movie. And I have to be honest with you, did not enjoy it, did not have a good time. Barely remember anything, like I said. Moving on to number 7. Apartment 7A is the Rosemary's Baby prequel, Paramount Plus, straight to streaming bullshit. Look, if you saw this film, you know it's not great. I know there's one YouTuber I listen to and love her videos that like really enjoyed this, and it shocks me every time she talks about it because I'm like, why though? No judgment, no shade. So happy someone else found value in this, of course. Like, I'm glad other people like movies I hate, but why? I'm just curious. This movie just did not do it for me. The musical glamour sequences just seemed so out of place. There was nothing really cohesive about that. It's basically an A to B retelling of the original movie. Why do I want to watch that? Let me tell you, I don't want to watch it. And that is why it's my number 7 worst film of 2024. So what's my number 6? And coming in here, we have an incredible performance in a terrible movie. And it's very unfortunate because this film stars Samara Weaving. It is a Shudder original film. Azrael, I'm sure most of you have seen it if you're in the horror space. But yeah, this movie just did not work. Outside of one scene, there's essentially no dialogue. And the film thinks it's being really creative for that, but it's really just not that good. So the fact that there's no dialogue just kind of adds to how long the film feels, even though it's less than 90 minutes. Like, I was ready for this thing to be over. Like I said, Samara Weaving delivers an incredible performance. She deserves no shade. But the movie, the script, the monsters, the everything, I just checked out. Did not work for me. Did not love it. So my number 5 worst film of 2024 is where things are going to start to get controversial in this video, because the Dude Bro Superman guys are going to come for me. But Deadpool and Wolverine was not good. I'm going to say it. It was not good. Deadpool, Wolverine, here's my thoughts. I'm tired of nostalgia. I'm tired of nostalgia, just like throwing in characters, places, just because you can and just because you think it's going to get applause, which I mean it did. Deadpool and Wolverine did incredibly in the box office, and no shade to anyone who decided to be a part of this project. Like, obviously it's huge, but I feel like Logan being the last interpretation of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine was a perfect ending. And as much as I was excited to see him back, I really wanted to love this movie. I saw this in London, so I couldn't even go with my AMC A-list, membership. Like, I literally paid $25 plus drinks in the movie to see this, and did not love it. Did not love it. There's only so many dick jokes one can laugh at before it's just like, why am I laughing? What is funny? So, yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine was just a miss for me. It has its moments, it has its fun, but overall, the first film in this franchise is the only one that I think is actually funny and actually has, like, heart and soul to it. So I'm going to leave that there. But my number 4 worst film of 2024 was, unfortunately, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Contrary to popular belief, I actually really loved the first Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey film. I thought it was like perfectly campy, kooky. I thought the sets for what they were very impressive. The production design was like beautiful, in my opinion, especially knowing what they had to work with. However, everyone hated that film, so in this film, they basically retcon that film, saying that that movie is a movie within this world, and this world wasn't as fun for me, I gotta be honest. Like, I don't want these creatures to be Freddy Krueger. I liked them more when they were a little less animated, which is weird to say about what is originally a cartoon, but they were a little too animated. Like, throwing bitch after every line does not make you Freddy and Dream Warriors, and I just really did not love this. I hope that I like the next one. I don't know why I'm talking that serious about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I know most people hate this franchise in general, but I really liked the first one. Do not love this one, so take that how you will. My number 3 worst film of 2024 is, unfortunately, again, a Blumhouse film. Do you guys remember when Blumhouse made great movies? I know it's like a long time ago. I know, like, you need to dust off the ripples in your brain to access those memories. But do you remember when Blumhouse was putting out shit like Insidious? What happened? Because we have Imaginary. We have Imaginary in number three. First of all, I didn't hate this movie. That's why it's a little higher up on the list. I thought this was like moderately entertaining. But what bothers me about this is that there are whole characters and plots that lead nowhere, like characters that literally just disappear halfway through the film, and then you never see them again. This was like great value Insidious, where there's like a world, like the further, I forget what it's called in this, but it's like this Imaginarium where everything's like fucking checkerboard and blue, and it looks cool, but it's utilized terribly. The twists, if you can even call it that, girl, this was not great. This was not great. I liked it a lot better than I think most people did. Most people like this less than Night Swim, and I thought this was miles above Night Swim, to be honest. But yeah, still not a great movie. Number two on my worst films of this year is, I believe it was a Netflix film. It was definitely a streaming original. It's called Unfrosted, and it's basically like a fictionalized Pop-Tarts story. I don't know how much of it is actually based in truth, because this movie is like campy, kooky fun. I actually gave this a 3.5 stars upon first watch, but the more I sit with that, I'm like, how did I give that 3.5 stars? Because like I enjoyed it, but 3.5 is like I really enjoyed it, and like I don't remember that much of it, to be honest. Stars Jerry Seinfeld, Melissa McCarthy, we got the cast. I think Amy Schumer is also in this. She is like the Kellogg's representative, while one of the other characters is for Pop-Tarts, and there's this like rivalry going on. That's basically what it's about. The rivalry between Kellogg's, like toaster pop-ups or whatever, and then Pop Toasties, whatever, and then Pop-Tarts. And they're like going head to head. It's a comedy. It's fine. It's fine. If you want a fun movie to put on and just like turn off your brain for a bit and like get some campy, kooky vibes going, put on Unfrosted, honestly. But when everything's stacked up, out of the 55 films I did see this year, this one just does not leave the bottom 10, unfortunately. And the same thing goes for my next pick, which is the last film in the worst category. So this is my favorite worst film of 2024. This is like my best bad movie. What I will say is that two other films in this franchise released this year after this film, and I still haven't seen those. So if I had seen those, knowing myself, this film would probably not be in the bottom 10. One of those would probably be in the bottom 10. But of course, I'm talking about Madam Web. Why did he buy the steelbook for Madam Web? Because I had fun. Okay? What are you going to do? I had fun with Madam Web. I thought it was delightfully terrible. I thought the ADR was so atrocious that I didn't even know if I was sitting in the same reality anymore when I was witnessing it on screen. The ending, wow. Wow, did they fuck us in the ending? This movie just is a bunch of nothing. I'm going to be so honest. This is about Dakota Johnson, whose mom has gone to like the jungle and in search of some special spider, and then she gets bit by said spider, and then there's like spies or whatever the fuck looking for the venom of the spider, and so there's betrayals and all this stuff. Everything in a bad action movie. You're getting a bunch of that. And here's the thing. I had fun. Me and my friend went and saw this. We made fun of it the entire time. I would watch this again, and that's why I bought it. So, Madam Web. Terrible, but maybe more enjoyable than most bad films. Okay, so moving on to the best films of the year. We are going from number 10 to number 1. So, yes, my number 10 best film of 2024. This was an earlier release in the year, and I still think about it. I still think about everything about this film, the ending, Sydney Sweeney. We have Immaculate. And it's so interesting that we have Madam Web next to Immaculate being worst and best, because Sydney Sweeney, here's the thing. She's come out and said many times in interviews that she made Madam Web so that she could finance Immaculate. Sydney Sweeney produced this film. She has been attached to this film for years and years and originally auditioned, did not get the part, but then the production fell through. And over time, she just kept working on it. She contacted the writer and director, and they've been working on this together. I absolutely love this film. Basically, I don't want to spoil too much. It's a nun film that is not basic. And that's all I want to say. This and The First Omen have very similar storylines. I know everyone's like going crazy over The First Omen. And while I thought that was beautiful, and I'll talk more about this in my tier list of all 55 new release films I saw this year, but I thought The First Omen was beautiful and maybe better produced than Immaculate. But I thought Immaculate was better. And maybe it's because I saw this first. This was released first. But I love this film. I love this media book release. We love this image of Sydney Sweeney. This is just a really cool German media book. I figure I'll show you. Immaculate, beautiful. Go watch it. Tell me the ending doesn't shake you to your core. And get back to me in the comments. Okay, again, we're going to get a little bit controversial here. None of you, I don't think a single person watching this video is going to agree with me, but number 9 in my top 10 films of the year is The Crow 2024. Excuse me. Like, what do you mean this is a bad movie? What do you mean this disrespects the original? What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Because I'm not sure. I love this movie. I thought it was great. Here's the thing. The first time I watched it, I popped it on because I actually got a free digital code from Mid-Level Media during one of his live streams. Thanks, Ken. But I popped it on thinking it was going to be shit. So I was kind of scrolling for the first little bit. And then I was like, wait, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of good. So I stopped scrolling, maybe close to halfway through, and just watched the rest. And I loved the film. I actually really loved it in a very unironic way. I thought it was like beautiful. I thought the action was great. Bill Skarsgård, oh my God, was he hot as the Crow. Like, after, not in the beginning when he's like lanky and like drugged out. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about towards the end when he gets the Crow powers and there's the gun and the, if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Oh my God, the recital, bitch. The recital. Anywho, let me digress. This movie was just good. I don't care what you guys say. I don't think this is disrespectful to the 90s film. Granted, I just saw that like a month or two before this film, so maybe I'm not the best judge on that. I have no nostalgia. I didn't think the film was that great in the first place. If I can be honest, why do I love The Crow 2024? I think I'm predisposed to this type of like overly dramatic love story, go to the ends of the earth for your lover type story because I'm a Twilight girly. I am a Twilight girly. Don't know how to break that to you, but there it is. I like The Crow. I thought it was interesting. Everyone talks about the relationship between Bill Skarsgård and Twigs not being authentic, not being well acted, and I disagree. I fully buy his like sudden fascination with her, his like latching on to her. I fully buy their dynamic and their romance. I can agree with the complaint of like, you guys just escaped a mental asylum, so why are you just hanging out like where you're gonna be found instead of running away? I get that gripe, but the actual complaint about their romance, couldn't agree less. I thought they portrayed it beautifully. I thought Twigs was an amazing actress in her role. I just thought this whole movie was great. 5 stars, maybe 4 stars, but will I say 5 stars just because I love it so much? Yes, I have to counteract all of your hatred, and I will do it till the day I die, because The Crow 2024, she fucking eats. Okay, so my number 8 best movie of the year is Terrifier 3. Surprised me. I did not like Terrifier 2. I thought it was bloated. I thought it was just too much, personally. Oh, hold on. Our monitor's dying, you guys. All right, we're back. But yeah, I thought it was bloated. I thought it was a bit too exploitive, slicing someone up and then literally rubbing sand in their wounds. As much as I am a slasher girly, as much as I love good gore and good horror, it was just a little too much for me. I felt it was not adding anything at all, and then the runtime for that film was just ridiculously long. This one isn't that much shorter, but it is at least shorter. I don't know, Terrifier 3, I just felt this was like so beautifully shot, actually. I love the grain structure that they used. I loved the Christmas aesthetic. I loved how edgy it was without going across the line. It definitely does things that other horror films won't commit to, but it does do them. It does commit to them, but it doesn't keep that exploitive nature as the second film, in my personal opinion. The shower scene, that's all I'm going to say on that. I didn't need to see that. Terrifier 3. I really enjoyed this. I believe I gave this 4 stars. I know I haven't shared all my ratings for them. I will try to do that later on when I do a tier list of all the movies, but I probably still won't because I'll just be tier listing them. So I probably won't think about it. But I gave Terrifier 3 4 stars, which is miles above the 2.5 stars I gave Terrifier 2. This next film, which will be my number 7 best film of 2024, is not yet out on physical, so I'll just throw a photo right here, and it is Your Monster. I was genuinely shocked at how much I loved this film. I thought it would be cute, and like I'm a huge fan of Melissa Barrera as a Scream super fan, of course. So I was really excited to check it out, but there really weren't that many showings around me, so I ended up having to wait for streaming, and I was able to rent this one, I believe, finally for like $6 one day. I really loved this. Everyone discussed this film and said that Melissa was strong, but the movie was not. And I fully disagree. I was not expecting for the emotional journey that I was about to go on. I thought this was going to be campy, cute, fun, like Lisa Frankenstein, which I enjoyed, but like it didn't like hit an emotional, like, you know, core with me or anything. So I was just really, really shocked at how much I loved this. I wasn't expecting there to be the violence that was there. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler, but I wasn't expecting any sort of violence or anything like that. I was just expecting a modern day Beauty and the Beast. And while it is that, it's definitely not. There's a creative spin on it that I think everyone will really enjoy. Okay, number 5. We have The Substance. Now, originally, this film I really enjoyed, but I felt the ending went a bit too overboard and it wasn't in my top 10. But the more I sat with this movie, the more other people have like shared how much it's affected them. I've like really gained much more like, I don't know, excitement for this film. I love how much recognition it's receiving, both, you know, with audiences and critically. It's being nominated for so many awards. Demi Moore is getting tons of clout for this role, deservedly so. So, yeah, I really enjoyed The Substance. I think it's batshit balls to the wall crazy. It also introduced me to Margaret Qualley, who is in another film in this top 10 list as well. And yeah, I just really cannot recommend The Substance enough. Dennis Quaid's character grossed me out, and I know that was the intention, but I hated him. So I just want to leave that on the record. Guys, we're in my top 5, and once again, I'm being controversial. Most of you hated this movie. Most of us didn't watch this movie in the cinema. I'm one of them. I waited for streaming on this one just because I didn't love the first movie that much. But my number 5 film of the year is Joker Folie à Deux. Oh my god, I know. I'm ready for the hatred in the comments. Tell me how stupid I am. Tell me how I don't understand movies. Tell me how you hate me with every inch of your being. I'm ready. I'm ready for my public lashing in the comments below. But Joker Folie à Deux was so much better than any of you bitches give it credit for. It was so good. Here's the thing. Do I understand the perspective of you guys wanted Joker and Harley to escape and start, you know, causing havoc, wreaking havoc in Gotham? Yes, I get it. I understand that that would have been a really fun movie. But that's not what this movie is, and that's okay. We have that with Suicide Squad. Maybe you didn't like that version of it, but we already have that. So, but yeah, that already exists. This movie was different. I had accidentally seen a spoiler on what happens at the very end of this film. I will not spoil it for you. Not that anyone is going to go see it anyways or go watch it anyways. But I had seen that, and that's part of what intrigued me to watch this by the end of the year. I love that ending. Here's the thing. I don't love how we got to the ending. I think the third act is where it lost me. I gave this film 4 out of 5 stars, where it should have been a 5-star. It had me hooked all the way through until a certain scene happens in the courtroom, and then things turn into a bit of chaos, and then things just kind of stop making sense to me for a bit. But I do still like the ending. I like what happens with the character of Arthur Fleck. I think it makes sense. I think it's ballsy, especially for a superhero film. I think it's something that most people would not do with a character who is the lead of what was a $1 billion intake. Obviously, this film did not make that, but I loved that. I thought that was great. I thought there was a better way to do it, which I won't say here because, again, I don't want to spoil anything. But I thought that The Joker, Folie à Deux, was a great movie. I don't understand the complaint that Lady Gaga was not in this film enough. I thought she was in it a perfect amount. I thought she had enough singing numbers. I actually thought she and Arthur both had one too many singing numbers. The final 2 musical numbers at the end of the film, in that third act that I was discussing, don't need those. Wish they weren't there. There's literally a point in the film where Joker is asking Harley Quinn, to stop singing. He's like, "Can we just talk now?" And that, I was like, he said that for me. Can we just talk now? I'm done. But I do like the musical numbers. I thought they added a lot to the film. I thought the vibe and mood of them was like very telling of the overall feel of the film. So yeah, Joker, Folie à Deux is top 5 of 2024. Who the fuck knew? It's number 4 best film of the year. We do have another blockbuster, and I do have this one. Dune Part 2. I became a Dune fanatic this year. Here's the thing. I read the book, I think back in 2020 during the pandemic, and I was getting ready for the film in 2021. Saw that film. As you guys all know, that film was not marketed as a part 1. It was just marketed as Dune. So when you get to the end of the film and nothing has really happened, and then it just closes with Dune Part 1, the anger, the betrayal, the rage that I felt at Warner Brothers really skewed my vision on the film. But now that we have Dune Part 2, I went into a whole rabbit hole. I watched Dune Part 1 to prepare for this, not really paying attention because I didn't love it the first time. Then I saw Dune Part 2, and I loved it so much that I went home and watched Dune Part 1 again, fully paying attention, and then went back and saw Dune Part 2 again. I've spent a lot of hours. That's what, like 10 hours of my life this year absorbing Dune through my face balls. So, perfect cinematography. Don't know what to tell you there. Performances are great. Timothée Chalamet really ate up the role of Paul Atreides in this part. I don't think he was great in part 1, but in part 2, I think he ate it up. You guys know Dune. You've heard all about it by now. This has been out for a while. But yeah, loved it. Recommend it if you haven't seen it yet. Moving on to the top 3. So after just sitting with this film, seeing it in theaters twice, listening to the original music that was made for it, my number 3 film of the year is Trap. I'm kidding. Okay, I'm kidding. Trap is one of the worst films of the year. It should have been in my bottom 10, to be honest. I just wanted to piss you guys off one more time. Number 3 is actually Smile 2. I am obsessed with Smile 2. I do have some issues with it. I do think it pushes the line on psychological elements where we're seeing things that aren't actually real. I feel like this pushed the line a little bit on how much we can do that. I like the subtlety of those moments in the first Smile. This film just blew that up a lot. But the performance of Naomi Scott as Sky Riley, absolutely incredible. The singing, the dancing, how intrigued I am into the Sky Riley world. And again, to compare it to Trap, I don't care anything about Lady Raven. Here's the thing. Salika, M. Night's daughter, who played that character in the film, the music that they made for the film is actually pretty great. There's 2 or 3 kind of like whatever songs on the album, but it's a whole length album. And most of the songs, if you're into pop music, they really fucking snap. but the movie so underserved the music, where Smile, there's less music, but it's perfectly intentional in the movie and for the character of Sky Riley that it just makes a lot more of an impact. And I've been streaming it pretty much on the daily. Doctor, I need a new brain. If you know, you know. Okay, don't come for me. Smile 2, just overall really great. Great scares, great jump scares, which is something I never say. If you have a fear of Voss water, maybe this isn't the movie for you. Like, if you don't like Voss as a company, maybe don't watch Smile 2. But other than that, I think you would all enjoy it. So I highly recommend it. The ending is definitely not as strong as the first movie. But the thing is, the first movie's ending is so iconic that you can't really replicate that level of shock when you're following the same lore, in my opinion. So I really like how they spun the ending in a different way in order to compensate for that. Number 2, this is a film I actually just watched in the last few days as well, and I was not expecting to love this film as much as I did. It's by far the best thriller of the year, in my humble opinion. Blink Twice, starring Channing Tatum. Who knew that this movie was going to sit as my second favorite film of the year? I think this film was so great. The performances from the lead, I remember her last name is Aki. I forget her first name, I'm so sorry. But she was incredible in this film. Tatum was so great in this film. There's a scene where he's apologizing a lot, very emphatically. He's sorry. And that scene, so good. The twists in this movie, there's a good 2 twists. They're not like the most mind-blowing, but they work really effectively for the narrative, and I really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed the ending as well because it kind of goes in a not shocking direction, but kind of unexpected, I would say. The vibe in general, the soundtrack's really good. I will say the only complaint I have is that the more violent / action heavy moments, I do wish were choreographed and shot and cut a bit better. The cuts are a little bit weird, and it's probably because they were choreographed in a way that they couldn't cut together as fluidly. That's just my interpretation based on what I know about filmmaking. So yeah, that's my only complaint. Blink Twice though, fully recommend it. Can't wait to add this one to the collection. Really fucking loved it. All right, and that brings us to my number 1 film of the year. I'm kind of shocked by this one too, but I just loved it so much. My number 1 film of the year, Kinds of Kindness by Yorgos Lanthimos. This film, first of all, it's like 3 short films that are like very loosely tied together in a way that's not important or really impactful. So it's basically just 3 different like vignette stories, and they are all 3 so interesting. The first one is my least favorite. I thought it was like good, but by the time you watch the second and the third story, it's just definitely the worst of the 3. But this film, 5 stars fully, just absolutely fucking crazy. There's no way to really discuss this film except to tell you that the performances are great. The cinematography is beautiful, of course. It's Yorgos. The score, excellent. It's very weird. You're going to feel very weird vibes. You're going to be like tense, but in the best way. You're going to be anxious, but curious throughout this film. And that's all I have to say about it. It's almost 3 hours long. I think it's like 2 hours and 44 minutes. So what I did is I watched one like vignette per night. And so it took me 3 nights to watch this, but I think that was more effective. I didn't get fatigued by the end, like I know a lot of people felt watching this, and I feel like that definitely added to my enjoyment, which is maybe why this is my number 1 film of the year. And those are my best and worst 10 films of 2024. So I actually watched a ton of movies this year. I watched 55 new release films, but I believe in total, including 2024 releases and then old releases that are new to me that I've never watched, I believe I watched like 170 something like new movies this year. And then of course there's some rewatches, which I won't discuss. But yeah, I just really wanted to jump into this channel and yeah, talk about my year of 2024 movie watching and kind of just like jump right in. Like I said, we're going to be talking about a lot of horror on this channel. We're going to be talking about a lot of physical media, new releases, maybe even a little bit of TV here and there as I check out new things. I don't really watch a ton of TV shows unless I'm rewatching old shows that I love. But yeah, that is the video. Be sure to subscribe, comment down below your thoughts about any of these movies. Keep an eye out for my next video, which is going to be a tier list of all 55 2024 releases. That is all I have for you guys today. So until next time, be sure to keep it peaceful.